Welcome to episode 13 of the Stitch Create Love podcast. My name is Lindsay and I'm coming to you from Cheshire in the northwest of the UK, where I live with my husband and our 5-year-old daughter. Yes, she is now 5, which means that she is at school. I've dropped her off there this morning, I've walked back home, I've put some washing out. It's a lovely sunny day, so hopefully it will dry. You don't need to know all this. I've got myself a cup of tea and I am determined to get a podcast filmed today because it has been a little while since the last one. I am back in my kind of original setup, which means that I've got show notes in front of me on the table and I just feel like I've kind of got everything around me. These shelves have now become my kind of whip area, so everything is here, which hopefully will lead to an efficient episode. You can find me on Instagram and Etsy and Ravelry as Stitch Create Love, and I will pop details or links or whatever it is to all of those in the description box below, and I will also pop some details on the screen for you. So, glancing at my notes already. How are you all? I hope you're well. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're managing to get some crafting done. It's we're living in very uncertain times at the moment, aren't we? We are due some kind of announcement about new lockdown / semi-lockdown restrictions here in the UK today. Yeah, it's all very anxious, isn't it? So thank goodness we've got our crafting, is all I can say at the moment. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer. Thank you for popping in for yet another long, rambling, crafty podcast from me. And if you are new, then welcome. It's lovely to have you with me. I know that I have had a lot of new subscribers. I don't tend to check my subscriber numbers that often, but I had an email from YouTube the other day to say that I had reached 1,000 subscribers, which is just, yeah, it's a bit unbelievable really. I can't believe that anybody is watching, let alone 1,000 plus people are watching. So yeah, that means of course that I'm going to have a giveaway. I'm not going to do that today because I wasn't aware that it was going to happen and I'm not prepared, but I will do a giveaway, if not in the next episode then certainly in the one after that. So I'll pop some things together for a giveaway, or if you have anything that you would like to contribute for a giveaway, then of course that's always very welcome. But also, now that I've reached 1,000 subscribers, for those of you who don't know, it means that you can monetize your YouTube channel, which basically means that you have the option of putting adverts on your videos. And if people were to choose to let those adverts run, then you'll get a kind of pence or a fraction of a pence for people watching them. I think I probably am going to turn that on because podcasting, making videos does take a lot of time, and if people do want to let the adverts run, then, you know, I'll get a few pence for that. So I probably am going to switch those on at some point. I'm only going to put them at the start and the end of the videos because it's really annoying, isn't it, if you're watching a video and then you get loads of adverts in the middle. So at some point you'll probably see some adverts at the start and the end. If you want to let them run, that would be great. And if you don't, then that's fine too. And please don't feel that you have to watch really long ones either. Okay, my next note says try and be quicker today, but you know, I've already been recording for 3 minutes and not said very much. I am going to try and be quicker today because what I found last time, my last episode was very, very long because I had a lot to say to you and it just takes quite a long time to edit and then it takes a really long time to upload. So I'm going to try and be a little bit quicker today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to not talk about all of the things that I want to talk to you about and all of the projects that I'm working on today. I'm going to talk about kind of half of them and then I will try and film another episode either next week or the week after and tell you about the other things that I am working on. So I am going to talk to you about some finished objects, one of which is very, very nearly finished, so I'm going to treat it as a finished object. I'm also going to talk to you about a couple of works in progress, and then I'm going to do some chat, which is going to involve maybe some plans. Yes, I have put some plans in there, sharing the love and a little tiny bit of shop news. But before all of that, I wanted to say a massive, massive thank you to everybody that supported the release of my first knitting pattern on Friday. It was released on Friday, which was the 18th of September. Today I should have said probably is Tuesday the 22nd of September, and I released my cowl pattern on Friday. This is the Dance Like No One's Watching cowl. I talked about it a lot in my last video and about the inspiration behind it and the yarns that I've used and everything, so I'm not going to talk about it too much today. I'll just pop it on for you to have a little look. So this is it on. It is now available on Ravelry, and it's also available in my Etsy shop. So if you're not able to use Ravelry at the moment because of the various issues that I know people are having with that, then you can get hold of a copy there. But thank you so much to everybody that's already bought a copy. Thank you so much to everybody that has shared the fact that the pattern is there. Thank you so much to all my lovely test knitters for testing my pattern and kind of, you know, taking a bit of a punt really, because I'm, you know, it's my first pattern. I'm an unknown designer, but it has been fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your support, and here it is on. If you would like to get a copy of the pattern, you can, and if you already have a copy of the pattern, then please use the hashtag, which I will pop up on the screen, Dance Like No One's Watching cowl on Instagram, and let me see what you're making with it, because that is massively fun now for me to see what people are doing with the pattern that they have purchased. So that all leads me nicely into my first sort of finished object. I'm calling it a finished object, even though it's still on the needles, because I have literally just got a couple more rounds of cuff to do, and this is going to be my next pattern design. I started saying all this and then stopped recording, because if I put this close to the camera, look what happens, the sun. So I'm going to stand up and see if that makes any difference. No, it doesn't really, does it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some pictures in for you to see these properly. This is going to be my next pattern design, which is a sock. And my kind of goal for this, in the same way that it is with the cowl pattern really, is that I want to make this as accessible as possible to as many different levels of knitter as possible. So the pattern will explain everything to you. It will explain how to do the toe, it will explain how to do the heel, it will explain how to do the stitch pattern, and I'm going to make sure the instructions are really clear and really detailed. I'm going to write everything out in full. I'm going to make sure that there are charts as well, and I'm also, these have been knit toe up because that is how I prefer to knit the socks, but I'm also going to include instructions in the pattern for cuff down as well, because the heel is going to be worked in exactly the same way whether you knit these toe up or cuff down. Up or cuff down, yeah, that's right. So as I say, I've got literally 2 more rounds of 1x1 twisted rib at the top, and then I'm going to be writing this pattern up this week, and it's going to go out to testers. So it's going to be released probably sometime towards the end of October. I'd like to get it out in October really, but it may go into the beginning of November. So yeah, I've spoken about these before, and basically what they've got down the front panel here is they've got a bee motif, and there's just a little bit of lace at either side. I will pop some pictures in because I've, you know, sun here, you can't see anything. And they were kind of inspired really by bees and nature and the time that I like to spend in the garden. But I also spent a lot of time knitting on these on the flight to Cyprus when we went to Cyprus in the summer. So I was calling them my flight socks, but I might kind of rename that slightly. The yarn that I have used is a sock set from Helen at Giddy Yarns, and it's dandelion. So I think the main colourway was called dandelion, and then the contrast green that came with it was just the contrast. That I don't think it had a particular name. I don't think that Helen is doing the sock set at the moment. I don't know whether she may well repeat the dandelion colourway. Yeah, we'll see. But that's the yarn that I've used, and all the details of that will go in the pattern when it is released. I could say a lot more about that, because you know me, if you can use one word, I'll use 10. But that is going to be written up this week. It's going to go out to testers, and so I'm calling it a finished object, even though it's not quite finished. What I've also done with these, just to kind of explain to you, is I did a high instep adjustment, because I found that when I knitted my Soul Sister socks, which had a different heel on them, but that wasn't a heel flap and gusset, I found that it was a little bit tight. And because this, you know, again, the way that I've done this heel, it doesn't involve a heel flap and gusset, I was worried that it was going to be a bit tight again, and so I did do a high instep adjustment. and they fit beautifully. So I will be writing that all into the pattern as well for you. So look out for that coming very soon. So that's my first finished thing. My second finished thing is here. Now, I mentioned in my last episode that I was planning my Christmas gift knitting, because we've got Angela from Knitting on the Farm and I have got a make-along going on at the moment, which goes on until the 25th of November, and it's the Christmas Gifts Mal 2020. Knitting and crochet go into Angela's Ravelry group, and sewing and everything else really that's not knitting or crochet goes into my Ravelry group. And one of the things that I wanted to make was this. He is Oliver Pig, and he is a pattern by Susan B. Anderson. And toy making and I have never really seen eye to eye. I have always wanted to make knitted toys, but they don't tend to work very well, because when I'm sewing the bits together, I never seem to get them in the right place, or the head's always wonky, and it's never quite right. But this is all knit in one piece. I'm just going to take his coat off for you. So you start with the head, and then as you're knitting, you knit it all in the round, so there's no kind of seaming up to do. As you're knitting the head, you put in, the pattern tells you where to mark with some purl bumps where the ears are going to go, and then you pick up there for the ears, and then you pick up underneath the neck to go down to the jumper. The jumper is all done in one piece, and then you pick up under here for the trousers, and then you do fasten off underneath, but again you've got your markers to pick up to put your legs on. The feet were sewn on, but that's not difficult, because you know it's not as important to get the positioning of your feet right as it is with your head and your arms and your legs. And the same thing again with the arms, were picked up and knit on, and you stuff as you go. And it was just a really, really lovely knit. I think his face could probably do with a little bit of work. I haven't used safety eyes. I've just used some embroidery thread and done kind of, again, I can't really show you, done some French knots. Here we go, you can see him a little bit better there. I wonder whether it was because the socks were white and that you couldn't see so well. There's a little tiny bit of colour work on the jumper, and then he's got his little feet and his little, I don't know, what are they called? Trotters? Paws? Don't know. Pig's trotters? He turned to pig's feet. Anyway, and he also has his little coat, which is very, very sweet, because it's got ear holes in it, and that was knit obviously separately, but it was knit in the round, and then underarm stitches and things picked up for the sleeves, and all knit in one piece. And he even has a little tail, which is made using an I-cord. I'd never done an I-cord before, and I just assumed that an I-cord was a very complicated thing to do, but it's very, very easy, and I will be knitting more I-cords. In fact, I shall be mentioning an I-cord in one of my whips. So he is finished, and he is going to be a Christmas gift for my stepmom, because she kind of has a bit of a thing about pigs. She collects pigs and things. So I thought it would be a nice gift to give to her. Eloise has obviously got her eye on him, but he's going to be a Christmas gift. And then he's just got some chunky buttons on the front. So I would definitely recommend that pattern if you're somebody who has struggled with toy knitting like me. And he, how long did he take me? I think he only took me a couple of weeks. I mean, obviously I wasn't doing it all the time. I was doing it in the evenings, but he did come together fairly quickly. So that is Oliver Pig, and I'm very, very happy with him. And Oliver Pig has kind of led me down a bit of a rabbit hole, hence the title of this episode. So I am involved in, I joined in a Zoom knitting chat, which Angela from Knitting on the Farm hosts on a Thursday evening. And we all kind of go in there and we chat about lots of things. It's really good fun. And we were all chatting about the projects that we were working on. And I was working on Oliver Pig at the time. And one of the other ladies in the Zoom, Nikki Winterton, who is Clara Peggotty, and she has the Sheep and Cheerful podcast, she assumed that I was crocheting Oliver rather than knitting him, and started talking to me about some crochet toys, the Toft ones actually. The name of who escapes me, Kerry Lord. She was talking to me about those, and I explained that I was knitting it, and then she said, oh, you know, I'm really sorry, I didn't realise. But it just kind of got me thinking, really, that conversation about crochet. I have always wanted to crochet and have always said, oh, I can't crochet, my brain doesn't work in that way, I can't work with just having one hook in your hand. This is a very long-winded way of telling you that I decided that I was going to look into crocheting a little bit more. And I went onto YouTube and had a little look around and realised that if you want to do amigurumi, which is all the kind of toys that you see done in kind of cotton yarns, really tight crocheted toys that look really, really professional and lovely, you only really need to know how to do a double crochet or a single crochet, depending on which terms you're using. I can't remember which is which, but anyway, you only need to know how to do one stitch. So I went on to the Bella Coco YouTube channel and I had a look about how to make a magic circle or a magic ring, how to do double crochet, and you need to increase and decrease, which is basically doing 2 double crochets in the same stitch or doing a double crochet into 2 stitches at the same time. I hope this is making sense. And I just decided that I was going to go and have a look for a free pattern and see how I got on. So this is what I managed to do, which kind of looks a bit like a mountain at the moment, but this is going to be the head of a giraffe. I went online, I had a look for some free patterns. There are loads of free amigurumi patterns out there. So this is something like free blue giraffe, and it's either from amigurumi.net or Amigurumi Today, and I will link it in the description box below. And this is going to be the body, and then I ran out of yarn, so I have now ordered and received some more yarn, so I'll be finishing it off. But you can see that that is going to be the head and the body. So that was my first attempt at crocheting, which, do you know, I'm really pleased with. If I hold it there, see that sun has gone now. I bet I could show you the socks, couldn't I? If I hold it there, I don't think it's bad. I mean, it's not like terribly even, but for a first attempt, I'm really quite pleased with that. Yeah. So that was my first attempt, and then, as you do, I started looking around and thinking about all the other things that I wanted to have a go at, and I saw that you can use like kind of a chenille, like a chunky type yarn to do amigurumi as well. And it has been Eloise's birthday recently, so I decided I was going to have a go at making her something, so I shall get it. Because it was over there. So I used some kind of chenille, it's more like a kind of a baby blanket yarn really, and I made this little bear for her. Purple is her favourite colour. I mean, look, his arms could do with being a bit better placed, and again I'll pop a link to this pattern in the description box below. And then I did him a little kind of infinity scarf with some, this is just acrylic yarn that I had in my stash, and I just I chained 8 and then I double crocheted into each stitch and then chained 1 and turned and went back, and so I just went round and round and round with that. So he's got a lovely little scarf, and she loves this. It's really, really soft, and that took me an afternoon and an evening. So when she first started school, she was doing half days, and she was there for an afternoon, so I cast it on while she was there in the afternoon, and I finished it off in the evening. And then the scarf I did the next day. So it was really, really quick to come together. So that's my little bear. And this is all kind of not in order here now because I'm just kind of telling you about all the things. But I am working on another project which I've not got massively far on, but I will show you. Now this looks a bit freaky at the moment. Ooh, it looks a bit like an alien. So this is a head, and I have put safety eyes in here, and then I'm just moving on to a body, and I will show you. Now that's my Oliver Pig pattern, so that's not going to help me, is it? Let me get the correct pattern. Ah, here we go. So this is what I am attempting to make. Let me find the front page of the pattern. Again, it's a free pattern, and I will link it in the description box below. You can get so much for free. If you want to try amigurumi. Here we go. It's not in colour, but this is what I'm attempting to make. It is Freddie Mercury, who, of course, the legendary Freddie Mercury, lead singer of Queen. Stephen and I love Queen, and yeah, I'm having a go at making that for him basically, so that he can put it in his office when he works from home, because he is obviously working from home most of the time at the moment, and it looks like we're probably going to have to go back to that a little bit more. So yeah, that's what I'm having a go at for him. So I'm using, this is Drops Muscat yarn, which is a DK weight cotton yarn. I'm not massively keen on it, if I'm honest. It splits quite a lot, and because I'm using quite a small hook, which is here, so it's a 2.25mm hook, it's a Clover soft touch one, it does tend to split a little bit. What I would say is, when I tried doing the giraffe, I used just a kind of a really cheap plasticky hook, which was horrible. This is so much nicer. It's got an aluminium hook on it, and then it's one of the ergonomic ones, so it's really nice and comfy for doing your crochet. So I've really fallen down a crochet rabbit hole, specifically an amigurumi rabbit hole, and there are lots and lots of free patterns on there. Amigurumi.net and Amigurumi Today are both really good places to find free patterns. There are also loads of paid for patterns, but obviously until I know a little bit more about what I'm doing, I don't want to be investing loads and loads of money and buying loads and loads of patterns. But yeah, definitely loving it. It's really, really quick. And it's also, my friend Jeanette from Crafty Clegs Creations does a lot of crochet, and she does a lot of amigurumi, and something that she always says to me is it's a lot easier to fudge it. If you go wrong with your crochet, it's a lot easier to kind of, you know, fudge it, bodge it back together and make it look right. So it's a lot more forgiving than knitting. I don't think I would have been able to approach this as easily if I wasn't as familiar with knitting as I am now. But I'm enjoying it. So if you fancy having a go and you're like me and you've always thought, oh, I wish I could do that, go and work out how to do a magic circle or a magic ring, how to do a double crochet or a single crochet. It's single crochet US terms, I think, and double crochet UK terms, whichever way around it is. Anyway, just learn how to do that and you can do this. It's dead easy. So that is my crochet journey, falling down the crochet rabbit hole. And I all went a bit here, there and everywhere there, didn't I, with finished objects and whips. But when you're learning new things, it's nice to do that. And I'm also trying to be quick and efficient. So my next work in progress that I'm going to show you, I'm only going to show you 2 knitting works in progress today, because I don't want this to be really long, and I will show you some more next time. So the first one that I'm going to show you, it's quite nice having them all here, isn't it? Because I can just whip them out and talk to you about them. So the first one that I'm going to show you is, and I spoke to you about this last time, is my dandelion hat, which is a pattern by Anna Devou, who is Along Avec Anna. This is a paid for pattern, and I will link to it in the description box below. This has been car knitting, and this is going to be a hat for Eloise. I spoke to you about that last time because I struggled to find hats that will fit her, because she has quite a large head circumference. And I'm using, what is this? This is, it's an acrylic yarn, because I want to be able to wash it really easily. And it is the Women's Institute Soft and Cuddly DK, and it was from Hobbycraft, and it is just 100% acrylic, and it's like a sort of a creamy pinky whitey colour with these pink and purple, I wouldn't call them speckles, splashes maybe. And here is how far I've got. So I've done the ribbing, and I've started working a few repeats of this dandelion stitch, which I love, and I am definitely going to be incorporating this into some future pattern designs, because I think it's beautiful. I'm thinking about doing something to be like fairy wings or dragonfly wings or butterfly wings. Yeah, loads of ideas. But this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, a lot simpler to do than I thought it was going to be. And as you can see, I've done quite a lot already. I do tend to do it in the car. You would look at it and think it's too complicated to do in the car, but the actual dandelion stitch that you do, I think is it's something like a 10-row pattern repeat, and you're only actually making the dandelion stitch on one of those rows and then decreasing a bit on the other row. So it's really, really simple. Nice and easy car knitting to do. So I'm getting on really well with that, and I'm hoping that that is going to be finished fairly soon, so that she can start wearing it when the weather gets a little bit colder. And that is living in my Taffety Clegs Creations bag from my lovely friend Jeanette. The other bags that I've got other projects living in are just bags that I've made, so I haven't, you know, spoken to you about those because it's a bit like, well, it's not necessarily blowing your own trumpet, but you can't get those from anywhere. So, right, okay. The next whip that I was going to talk to you about is, again, living in one of my homemade bags, handmade bags, which I think you've seen before, and I just embroidered on the front of this from the tiniest stitches, Mighty Projects Grow. And I have started a shawl because the weather is starting to get a little bit cooler here. Having said that, this sunshine here today, you can see it's there now. The sunshine here today is very, very bright and it's very, very warm. And what I'm finding is that I'm having to put on something really warm to go on the school run and then having to get changed throughout the day because I'm cold. So I've got my Whitmore sweater on today. I digress. So yeah, I've started a shawl because as it gets cooler, it's nice to have something nice and warm and handmade to wear. So let me show you. In fact, I haven't printed out a picture of the pattern, so I will pop a picture on the screen. Oh, there is a little pattern here, but then I'm going to be showing you some of the patterns. I'll pop it up on the screen. It's the Molten Shawl by Libby Jonson. If you don't know who Libby Jonson is, then I'm sure you've probably heard of the Floozy cardigan. So Libby Jonson is the designer of the Floozy cardigan, and she's truly Myrtle. And this is a shawl of hers, the Molten Shawl, which I'll pop up on the screen. And it's a lot of garter stitch, and then it's got a really nice lacy border. It's a 2 skein shawl, but I'm using more than 2 skeins. So I had a little look through my stash and I worked out what I wanted to use. And I've shown you on here before, I had some 20-gram minis of 100% merino hand-dyed, which I bought on eBay from, I think it was Moss Cottage Yarns a while ago, and just never got round to using them. And I thought, well, they would look really nice as a fade for the top section, the garter stitch section of the shawl. So let me just put that down there. So I've done the top section, which is in more of a kind of, it's not quite solid, I would say it's a semi-solid, really rich kind of pinky red colour. And then there's a little bit of a narrow stripe. I'm showing you the wrong side. Let's turn it round. Oh dear. Right, I've done the top garter section. Then there's a little narrow stripe here. And then I've gone into the next garter section. So what I'm doing is I'm using them as a bit of a fade. Yeah, that's a fairly good representation of the colour. Obviously this is coming out far too bright, Progress Keeper, just to let me know which is the right side. It's a really, really lovely knit. I've knit a shawl before. I've done the Spindrift shawl by Helen Stewart, which was a single skein shawl, and I made that for my wedding last October. But this is kind of the first larger shawl that I've done, so I decided to do that one because it looked fairly simple and fairly accessible. So the colours that I'm going to carry on using, so this was the first one and this is the next one. I'm going to see if I can hold them all together. Then I'm going to move into this one, and then I'm going to move into this one. Let's see if I can do this without, no, without dropping them all. And then I'm going to use this one. So all the garter section is going to be done in those. You would think I'd be able to hold them properly, wouldn't you? And then the lace section at the bottom I'm going to do in this, which is it called Kiss Chase? I think so, and it's by Little French Meadow, who sadly are not dying anymore, but I thought that would be really nice for the lace because it kind of pulls all of these others together. So those are what I'm using for the shawl. And I came upon this shawl by watching the Truly Myrtle podcast. Now, I find Libby incredibly inspiring as a designer. She is, if you don't know her, she's from New Zealand. I think she has lived in the UK before, but she is now currently living again in New Zealand. And she's just so passionate about designing knitwear and designing knitwear that's really flattering for you and your shape, and her kind of passion for everything that she does and for everything yarn really comes across. And I find she's a massive inspiration for me in terms of my journey as a pattern designer. But I just kind of want to knit all of her patterns. and I don't know why I've never got around to knitting them before. But anyway, she has a podcast, but it's on Facebook. So she has a free Facebook group, and I'll pop a link in the description box below. It's called the Truly Myrtle Knit and Hangout or something. It's only for you to kind of discuss her patterns, but honestly it's worth just getting involved to watch her podcast, because she did, the last episode that she did, she was talking specifically about two skein shawls, and she showed quite a lot. Sorry, there's something, there's next door's dog barking outside again. I'm not going to talk about the dog. She was talking about two skein shawls, and she had samples of lots of her shawls there to show. So the Molten is the one that I'm doing now, but I have ordered some yarn from Mr. B Yarns, and I would like to make the Siren Song shawl of hers. And then she's also got another one called Thundercloud Kisses, which looks a bit complicated, but I'd like to have a go at that one as well. So that's kind of my shawl plans going forward, but that's the one that I'm currently working on. And I'm really pleased with how it's turning out. And as I say, it's a really nice kind of sitting in front of the TV knit. So that is my Molten shawl. And that is all of the whips that I'm going to talk to you about today. So let's go into the chatty section, shall we? Right, I've just paused that because the dog got ridiculous. I'm going to have a sip of my tea. So, chatty section. Yes, 3 make-alongs going on at the moment. We have the timetozweig knit-along, which I'm doing with Kathy from the Whatnot podcast, and I'm aware that I haven't shown you my zweig today because I haven't got any further on it. I need to finish the lace, and that is definitely something that is on my to-do list this week. I've decided that I'm not going to do the textured stitch pattern on the body of the sweater, and hopefully that will mean that I can get on with it and get it finished. So that is the zweig. We also have the Christmas Gift Smell 2020, which is running in the Ravelry group, and you can also use the hashtag on Instagram. And the other make-along that is going on is the Florence make-along. Again, there's a hashtag on Instagram, and you can post your finished Florence bees in the Ravelry group. I haven't had that many entries, which is fine because it's running till the end of September, and if there's not many entries, then you've got a great chance of winning. I'm just going to put together some more English paper piecing goodies for you. There will be more hexies, there will be more paper hexies, and I'll pop in a few other little bits and bobs as well into the prize for that one, just be one prize. But I sold out of all of my Florence kits, and there weren't kind of like hundreds of them, but there were quite a few of them. So if you have bought a Florence kit from me and you have made it, enter your finished object into the make-along. You can do it on Instagram or on Ravelry, and yeah, you could be in with a chance of winning some goodies. But as I say, if we don't get any more entries, that's fine. I will draw the winner from the entries that we've got, and that is going to carry on until the 30th of September, by which time I would hope to have filmed another podcast, and maybe I can film one then and announce the winner in that. I'm rambling, stop it. Okay. Shop news is, well, I talked about the pattern, so you know that the pattern's available now if you want to order that. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm concentrating quite a lot on pattern designs. I feel as if this year I have been on a massive journey personally and professionally sounds a bit weird, because for me I find it very, very difficult to separate I find it very, very difficult to make the distinction between what I do personally and what I do professionally and creatively. I think the type of person that I am, it suits me for those two things to come together. My work kind of becomes my life. I'm a trained primary school teacher, and I'm sure anybody else that has worked as a teacher knows that your teaching job becomes your life. It intertwines quite a lot, and so that happens a lot with me. So I feel like I've been on a journey personally and professionally, but the two things go together. And where I am at the moment is I feel like I'm in a very good place where the two things are gelling well together in terms of the pattern designing. It's giving me an opportunity to develop my craft, my knitting, and it's giving me an opportunity to express my creativity and have an outlet for that. The two things are just going really, really well together, and it's a way that I hope going forward is going to be able to produce a sustainable income for me. It's only going to be a very small income because, you know, I am not Libby Jonson or Andrea Mowry or Caitlin Hunter or any of these other kind of wonderful big indie pattern designers. You know, I am on a journey, and one day I would hope to be able to design shawls and garments and things, but for the time being, you know, I'm a very, very small fish in a big pond, but I'm hoping that that's something that I'm going to be able to develop. So I'm focusing a lot on the design side of things. I am still going to be putting some things into the Etsy shop that I've made. I've got a few things here which I'm hoping to get in on... Sorry, I've just had a message pop up on my phone. I've got a few things here which I'm hoping to get into the shop this week or next week. Oh, that's great, isn't it? I've just dipped that in there. So these are Notions pouches, and these are made from a cotton canvas, and then this is a Liberty fabric, Liberty quilting cotton, and I've got some lace on there. So these are going to be the Liberty and lace bags. They've got a really nice, soft, kind of lilac-y floral lining, drawstring closure, and I'm going to do some stitch marker sets to go with those. So that's the first print. Then there is this one, which I will open up for you. And again, Liberty fabric. And finally is this one. I'm sure you've all seen this fabric before. So those are going to be going into the shop at some point this week or next week. And as I say, there will be some coordinating stitch markers and progress keepers to go with them. But the shop is probably going to be updated with physical stock a little bit less, because I'm trying to focus on the designs. Incidentally, I have been very, very lucky with pattern testers for the cowl. If you are particularly interested in testing out any patterns, then just get in touch and let me know, because I won't necessarily use the same testers for every pattern, because some people prefer to knit a cowl, some people prefer to knit socks, so it's always nice to know if you would be interested in being a pattern tester. If you don't know what it involves, basically I send you my kind of my draft final version of the pattern, if you like. I will have knitted it up myself, so I know that my sample worked, but it doesn't always work the same for everybody. So it's a way of me checking that the instructions are correct, and it's a way of me checking that they're easy to understand, and it's also a way of checking for typographical errors and things like that. For example, on the cowl pattern, I wrote out all of the instructions in a portrait table form, and then a couple of people said the print was too small, so I've included a landscape format as well. And I wouldn't have thought of that necessarily without the testers. So I send it out to you. You knit it up. There is usually a deadline, and I will be very clear about when that deadline is, that your item needs to be finished by, and I don't tend to be particularly secretive about it, so I'm happy for you to share on social media whilst you're test knitting what you're knitting up, and as long as you obviously tag me in, and just, you know, make it clear that that is what you're doing, that it is a test knit and that it is my design. So if you would be interested in doing that, and then at the end of the whole process, I send you a copy of the final pattern once it's released as well. So if you'd be interested in that, do let me know. Okay, on to a bit of sharing the love. I don't know why I've not shared the love for this lady before. Dawn. Dawn is on YouTube and Instagram as Dawn's Days. I will pop a link to her in the description box below, and to her Instagram and to her YouTube. She lives in Holland, but she's originally from Manchester in the UK. She does weekly vlogs, but she has fairly recently started doing a podcast as well, and it's really nice just to see what she's up to. She's on a bit of an amigurumi journey like me as well, and Dawn is also very, very good at supporting other people like ourselves, you know, fairly kind of new podcasters and small businesses and things. And I think she also has an Etsy shop actually, Dawn. So yeah, if you're not aware of Dawn, if you don't know Dawn, pop across, have a look at her podcast, have a look at her Instagram, and give her a follow. She's really lovely. She's very, very friendly, and yeah, go and give Dawn some love. So I think I'm in danger of actually wrapping up everything that I wanted to say to you today. I've got a lot more projects that I'm working on and a lot more things to talk to you about, but I'm going to save that, as I said, for the next episode, because otherwise this just becomes far too long and never gets recorded. I'm just wondering whether I had any kind of chat to share with you, really. Do you know what? I'm going to leave it there. if you would like to chat about anything in particular, do leave me a comment in the description box below. Thank you so much for all of your continued ongoing support, whether it's liking, commenting, sharing, purchasing, whatever it is that you're doing. I really, really enjoy doing the podcast and interacting with all of you. It's lovely to hear from you. So yeah, keep in touch, and thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again hopefully next week or the week after. Thank you very much. Bye bye.